What is going on, y'all? Gamers Goon here today, and we are 10 days away from the NBA draft. So, we have yet another mock draft video coming out for you. We, at the top, once again, there hasn't really been much movement of who these two guys are going to be. With the Mavericks, you look at a team right now with Anthony Davis. You look at a team that's waiting on Kyrie to get healthy, a team that's been rumored to go after a point guard to the Chris Paul, Lonzo Ball, somebody of that nature. The not super expensive one. Cooper Flagg fits very well alongside those guys. Cooper Flagg is the best player in this class. He's already played with the Team USA team. He's played with Kevin Durant. He's played with Anthony Davis. He's played with the stars of the NBA. You don't mess it up and go anywhere else. Cooper Flagg is the right pick. He might not have the greatest NBA career out of this group because I really like maybe Dylan Harper's upside. If Ace Bailey hits his fullest potential, I think he has a chance to be the best player out of this group. But Cooper Flagg, as of right now, is the guy. He is the most NBA-ready prospect out of everybody. Not to say he doesn't have a high ceiling. His ceiling's extremely, extremely high. But it's going to be up to the Mavericks to fully get that out of him. Cooper Flagg, though, easily the best player in this class. You can expect him to probably be the rookie of the year unless there's injuries or something of that nature that maybe slow him down. But this is a team here in the Mavericks that will compete for playoffs next year. Not playing playoffs. And a team that more likely than not should not have been picking number one, but they are because that's how the lotto worked. So there you have it at number one, Cooper Flagg. Not much discussion needs to be had there. Number two is Dylan Harper. It's Dylan Harper. Yes, I know you have De'Aaron Fox. I know you have Stephon Castle. You got some, not necessarily undersized, but guys that aren't super big on the wings, and Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell. Obviously, you have Victor Wembanyama, so, I mean, that makes up for everything. And if Victor Wembanyama can stay healthy, then you have some good business ready for you. But, to me, I look at Dylan Harper and Cooper Flagg as easily number 1 and 2. Dylan Harper is the second closest thing to an NBA-ready player behind Cooper Flagg, and I think the potential is outstanding as well. Dylan Harper will come to this team and not be gifted a huge role early on. He'll be a starter. Don't get me. He might not be a starter. He might come off the bench. He can maybe. I wonder if they'll maybe experiment with him at the 3. But you have Fox, you have Castle. Harper, year 1. Might be a sneaky rookie of the year pick. And obviously he'll be one of the favorites since he's going to be the second pick in this year's draft. But there's just so many guards on this team. You have to compete with Fox to score. You got to compete with Castle to score. And I think Castle would be more likely the one to play off ball between the two. Victor Wembanyama you're going to have to compete to score with. Long term, this team's going to be really good. Is that enough to get Dylan Harper Rookie of the Year? I don't know. Usually Rookie of the Year's score more than maybe what I can see Dylan Harper doing to start next year, just because this team is loaded right now in San Antonio. But Dylan Harper is the correct pick. Easy selection if you are the Spurs. I would be shocked if it's anybody else. Then we get to the 76ers. This is where the draft really begins. The draft really begins, and it's a 3-horse race at the moment. Trey Johnson, if you are looking for a big-time offensive weapon that projects to be a good defender, long wingspan, lengthy guy, 6'6", maybe could run some 3, small ball 3, Trey Johnson could be your guy. You look at VJ Edgecombe, probably the best defensive prospect here at the moment, in this group at least. VJ Edgecombe, good, gets downhill, but with him, he's somebody that I think I could see a world where he doesn't reach his fullest potential. And I don't know if a team here in the 76ers, I like the fit next to Maxey, but I don't know if you get the most offensively out of Edgecombe here when you're competing with Jared McCann, when you're competing with Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid. And that is why I'm going to have them do a little bit of a project pick here, and Ace Bailey. Not to say Ace Bailey's a bad player. That's not at all what I'm saying. Ace Bailey I think fills that Paul George role well. If you drafted, if you got Paul George in and you were hoping he'd be good still, I think Ace Bailey gives you what you were looking for in Paul George on the offensive end. Big time shot maker. It's going to have its ups and downs. It's going to take some time for him to be probably the guy consistently that you rely on. But he has that knack for the big moment. He has that knack. We saw it at Rutgers. There is still going to be a lot of questionable shots his rookie year. That's going to be up to the 76ers to kind of work out the kinks there with that. And then you're looking at another 6'10 guy that I think has some defensive potential. Nobody really talks about Ace Bailey as a defensive guy because that's not what he was and not who he's been. But if you can get him to be a competitive defender, if Paul George is still around, learning under Paul George and how Paul George plays defense, even if Paul George is not around, if you can get him to be a willing defender, I think he is truly the third best player in this class because of the unlimited offensive upside. And then you look at a guy that on paper should be a good defender. If you can get Ace Bailey to really commit defensively and just be an average to above average defender, I think you would have a really, really good basketball player out of Ace Bailey. So Ace Bailey is my selection here with the third overall pick. Like I said, 3-horse race, but I think I'm leaning towards Ace Bailey because the long-term production, when you're looking at life after Joel Embiid, Paul George, the long-term upside there with Ace Bailey, I think, is a little bit higher. Then we get to the Hornets. The Hornets, I think, are another team that could throw a dart at the dartboard and really just bank on somebody being that guy. Miles Bridges, Brandon Miller, two really solid players. I don't think those guys are going to be a player that you're like, oh, that's one of our leading scorers. We're going to be a really good team. Maybe they're the third option, yeah. LaMelo, he gets hurt a lot. It's kind of been the name of the game, but when he plays, he's really, really good. Big man, they might be looking for a big man. Mark Williams obviously was traded and then not traded. But to me here, it's a simple race here between Trey Johnson and VJ Edgecombe. I think VJ Edgecombe is probably the likely pick here, but more so recently, I've really started to like Trey Johnson's chances of going in this kind of top 4 group and being the guy to break the mold. Because for me, for the most part, it's been the top 4. VJ, Cooper, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, in whatever order. I think if there is a guy here that can break up that group and get inside that top 4, it is Trey Johnson. You're looking at a guy that offensively was called upon a lot at Texas, almost a 20-point per game scorer. You're looking at a guy right now that is not a great defender, but when you look at the wingspan, when you look at him being 6'6", potentially being able to play the 3, at least playing the 2 here alongside LaMelo Ball, if you're banking on defensive upside, Trey Johnson's got that. If you're banking on offense, Trey Johnson's got that. VJ Edgecombe, a really well-rounded player, if you ask me. But I think the sheer potential alone, what Trey Johnson can become, will maybe give him the nod here. And I am going to have him slide into the top 4 and go to the Hornets, where I haven't really had that happen too much. But somebody's got to break up the kind of the consensus here in this class, and that makes it an easy pick here for me. Or does it? Because I look at a team in the Jazz, and I see Keontae George, Isaiah Collier, and I see scoring, right? That's what you see. Obviously, Clarkson, Sexton being there. You see scoring. They might trade him, but you see scoring. Defense with Kessler, Filipowski's solid, Lowry Markin, John Collins, Hendricks. You're not looking for a big man, really. I think this really comes down to a couple players. You got VJ Edgecombe, who I think is probably the best guy here at this spot. When you're looking for a guy that can really lead the show here in Utah and then also be a defensive weapon, VJ Edgecombe answers a lot of questions. But, on the other hand, I could see them going a Concanipple. Playing the wing. He would be playing off ball. But I think I'm still leaning towards VJ. I just cannot see VJ falling outside of the top 5. 15 points a game at Baylor. That's probably going to take a little bit of a dip in the NBA, but he's a guy that I think could run the show for him. He's a guy that plays with his heart. He's a guy that I think could lay it all on the line for Utah. He's a guy that I think ultimately out of the top 4 might have the lowest ceiling, but also I think his floor is pretty safe when you come to VJ Edgecombe. So that is yet another guy that I think teams would be really, really happy getting. We get to the Wizards, and the Wizards here might be a trade down candidate. And I'm going to have them trade down because we have the Pelicans coming up, and the Pelicans are a little bit of a question mark. We have the Nets coming up, and they're a true question mark. I think I might have somebody trade up here for Kasper Shakashonis or Jeremiah Fears. Let's see if we can get a deal done with anybody. Perhaps you don't trade with the Magic. You don't trade with the Magic. But maybe here, is it too early? Is it too early for Atlanta to move up with 13 and 22 and perhaps add a player in that deal? Is it too early for the Blazers to move up? With the board set, Con Knipple, yet another good option here. I want to have this be a trade because I want to get some trades in this video. I don't love taking Kasper Shakashonis or Jeremiah Fears here if you are the Wizards. I do like the fit, but I think it might still be a little bit too early for him with Knipple, with Kamal Malawach, with some of those guys on the board. What do the Rockets have to offer? That's not enough. That's not enough. Would the Nets be willing to trade up? Would the Nets be willing to trade up? We're going to have the Nets trade up. They cannot have all these picks. They cannot have all of those picks. So we're going to have the Nets trade up slightly, to ensure that the Nets get their point guard. Yes, they would have an option of Kasper Shakashonis, Jeremiah Fears at 8, but you're banking on the Wizards not to take one. You're banking on the Pelicans not to take one. If you're the Nets, you could jump up. You have trade pieces here with 4 first-round picks to move. We're gonna do that move. We're gonna do that move. So you're trading up here, and I think if you're trading up, you're looking at Kasper Shakashonis, Jeremiah Fears. And to me, I look at a team here that is kind of all over the place. I think Kasper Shakashonis obviously brings great playmaking, but I think kind of just the offensive questions at times, kind of his aggression level at times at Illinois was somewhat of a concern. There were times where Will Riley looked like the better player out of the two. And I think watching Oklahoma, there was times where Jeremiah Fears just willed that team to win. Every game you watched, it felt like it was Jeremiah Fears plus others. Like, it wasn't like, oh, they had this guy, they had this guy. It was pretty much the Jeremiah Fears show. Now, I do know you have Cam Thomas. I don't know what this means long-term for Cam Thomas, but I think here you're just drafting a dog. You're drafting a guy that offensively is a good playmaker. He will be not a great defender at the NBA level, but he'll be an okay NBA defender, I'd imagine, if you really get him to work hard on it. And then you're also looking at a guy here that has zero fear, unironically, but a guy that's willing to be that guy for a team. I think you just need dogs on a team here that really lacks an identity, and I think you get a dog here in Jeremiah Fears. He is one of my favorite prospects, just simply because when you watch this kid play, he just has kind of this aura to him where, like, get the ball in my hands, I'll go to work, get the ball in my hands, I'll run the show. I'm not shying away from the big shots. I'm not shying away from passing when I need to, but I know I'm that good. And he's also one of the younger players here because he did reclassify into this year's class. The Pelicans are now up. They were a team we were somewhat concerned about for the point guard position because you look at DeJounte Murray, who has an injury history. Jose Alvarado, long-term, the point guard situation is a little bit questionable. You look at shooting guard Jordan Hawkins, somebody I like but hasn't got a super great run here in New Orleans. You look at CJ McCollum, he's getting up there. You like the wings here with Murphy and Jones. Zion, we don't know if he'll even play next season. And then you got Yves Missy at the center position. So really here to me, you're just looking, this team is kind of confusing because you're looking at a team on paper that could be good, but you're also looking at a team on paper that just like isn't super impressive. So I would hear, I'm kind of gone back and forth here what I want to do. Kaman Malawach would be an interesting fit next to Yves Missy. I think it could work, actually, especially when you have a little bit of question about whether or not Zion will be good to go after kind of some of his off-court stuff going on at the moment. You look at guards. I think guard you can make a big case for. So here, while Colin Knippel is still on the board, I think here I would take Kasper Shakashonis. I'm looking for a guy that could either run that one or the two, could be a playmaker, can throw the lobs to Yves Missy. If Zion's back, throw the lobs there, can really get the ball in the hands of Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. Yegor Dimon would have been an interesting option as well. But I think when you're looking at a possible wing, I still want some playmaking off the wing. Colin Knippel, solid player, can do the playmaking, but I think Kasper Shakashonis just answers a few of their needs a slight bit better than what Colin Knippel does. Colin Knippel, somebody that will be getting drafted here soon, but it was not the time just yet. Colin Knippel is just another team he just doesn't really fit into, if you ask me. Bilal Coulibaly, Corey Kispert, kind of in need of a power forward / center. And this is where I'm going to have a team take a gamble. We haven't really done it too much, but it sounds like some teams are really interested in these high potential guys, the Carter Bryants and Noah Sengays. I'm going to have it be Carter Bryant here. You're banking on the upside offensively and defensively. He will be a solid defender day one of being in the NBA. The offensive game was not really showcased too much at Arizona, so that's a little bit more projection-based. But when you are looking at a team here in the Wizards that have Alex Starr, who's been okay for the most part, has Jordan Poole, who might be getting traded, I think you need to take a big swing. I really do. I know Colin Knippel is a little bit of a safer option, and you could maybe go point guard with only Bub Carrington being on roster, but you do have a couple extra picks here now. I think you take a big swing here on Carter Bryant. You take the big swing on Carter Bryant. Somebody's going to take a big swing on him. It's going to be them. It's going to be them. We might even have them trade back up with 18 and I think 27 was their picks. We get to the Raptors. The Raptors should be very excited. Malawach and Queen are both on the board. To me, this whole process, Malawach has been my number one center. I really like Derek Queen's offensive game. I mentioned it with Jeremiah Fears. Sometimes you just need a dog on a team, a guy that that will you to victory, a guy that will give your team an identity. Derek Queen, love the player, but I just don't see the fit here. You're looking at possibly replacing Pirtle Castleton at that big man position. You need defense. Scotty Barnes, he's going to provide you with offense. B.I., he's going to provide you with offense. R.J. Barrett, if he's still around, will provide you with offense. Ochai Agbaji, Grady Dick, solid players. Agbaji can play some defense. Grady Dick will be your 3-and-D player. Emmanuel Quickley will provide you with offense. I don't think offense is the biggest need when I look at this team. I think here you're just looking for a player with some good offensive potential, but a really good defender here in Kaman Malawach. And he will make his name early on in the NBA as a primarily interior defender. Then we get to the Rockets. This would be a dream scenario for the Rockets. Colin Knippel should not be here, but he is. And this does give them some freedom to maybe work out a deal with Cam Whitmore, Dylan Brooks, trade those guys. Maybe even trade. Do they trade Tari Eason? Probably not. There's been a little bit of question on whether or not Jalen Green's in the long-term plans. Gives them some flexibility there. Con Kneppel just fits the build here of a guy that can do a little bit of everything well. A guy that I think is truly the best 3-and-D prospect in this class. I think you're looking at a guy that plays immediately on this Rockets team, but also not a guy you need to manufacture shots for. Can play off ball. Will be a good three-point shooter when Van Vliet, when Reed Shepherd, when Jalen Green, whomever gets him the ball. Amon Thompson, Şengün. Be a good kick-out option. Knock down his threes. Won't need the ball in his hands an extreme amount, but will be a very highly productive NBA player. I think the Rockets would be in absolute heaven if Con Kneppel fell to them at 10. When we get to the Blazers are an interesting one. Asa Newell, my friends are huge on Asa Newell. If you haven't watched that, I've said that about 6-7 times. I want to have Asa Newell fall to the Bulls. I'm not going to lie. I'm selfishly having him fall to the Bulls. I'm going to pick him with the Bulls pick. I'm letting you guys know that right now. I'm starting to really, really like Asa Newell and what he brings. So, when you look at this team, you have some guards questions. Scoot Henderson, it's been okay, but not great for where he was picked. Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons could be traded. It might be traded before the draft. Who knows? Deni Avdija really came along this year. You look at a bunch of wings here. Jabari Walker solid. Chris Murray solid. Chimani Kamara, really big year defensively. Jeremy Grant is still there. Big man, you don't have to really worry about. I like all these guys. They all provide a little bit something different. So here, I have a sneaking suspicion point guard is on their table, but I don't know if I wanted to go Yegor Dimon here. Yegor Dimon's somebody that kind of has been a little bit weird in this draft process, where it sounded like he might go top 10 at one point, maybe to the Nets, and now it's starting to die off, and maybe he'll go later and outside the lotto, whether that's 16, 17, 18, somewhere around there. Dimon's kind of fallen off in a sense of just this highly regarded guy to go early. I don't think it's as much of a lock here. So, with that being said, I don't love any of the point guard prospects at the moment. So, we are going to take our big swing. This is yet another team that I think was really good to end the season. A team that I think is a playoff-bound team at the rate they're at right now. If you see a little bit of a jump from Scoot, Shaedon, Simons, Deni, Kamara, Klingon, if you even have a slight bit jump, they ended the season pretty well, and I think they were close to being a playoff team. I think you draft upside. I think you draft a guy that not necessarily right away is going to be elite, but a guy that a lot of people think, if it works, could be one of the better players to come out of this draft in Noah Sengye. I know the Asa Newell idea, but I'm not going to lie. I'm selfishly having him fall to the Bulls. I am selfishly having him fall to the next pick to the Bulls. Both of these guys, though, should be in this range here. Is Sengye a little bit bigger of a swing than Asa Newell, in my opinion, but Asa Newell also a top lotto pick, and this is going to be where I have Asa Newell go. He's been shooting the ball well from the workouts, from what I've been hearing. Defensively, he's a guy that automatically gets on the court, will block shots, might be a little bit reluctant to play the true center position. I think he's a decent passer. Obviously, one assist isn't great at Georgia, but I think he'll be a decent passer at the next level. You're probably not going to get these 15 points out of him super early on in his career, but you're looking at a lob threat. You're looking at a guy that's a decent shooter. You're looking at a guy that can go get some boards. Super athletic player here. And let's see if we can find a comp for him. John Collins, I could see a little bit of John Collins, and I'm a little bit bigger in a sense. I think he's, what's John Collins, like 6'9", 6'8", a little bit taller. I could see a little bit of John Collins in him, absolutely. Al Horford, versatility, I like that. But This is a guy that I've really started to really dial in on when it comes to the Bulls. I want the Bulls to go big man. I understand that the CMBs of the world, just defensive focused prospects, are not going to be the pick. That should not be the pick. I like CMB as a player, but I don't think that's really the route the Bulls, A, are going to go, and B, need to go. Derek Queen, you look at him, same thing there, but on the other side of that argument, he is at this point, a really good offensive prospect. Defensively is not there. So I look at somebody in Asa Newell. I see a guy right now that is a good defensive prospect. I see a guy right now that could be a solid offensive option. I see a lob threat when I get a pick and roll with Josh Giddey. I see a guy that will be able to stretch it out just a little bit. Don't know if he'll ever be a huge three-point shooter or anything like that, but I think he does have a little bit of versatility to kind of step out and hit a shot here and there. Not as much as Vooch, but if you are looking for a prospect here that can stretch the floor, be a lob threat, be a good defensive option, Asa Newell's your guy. I am absolutely thrilled if the Bulls walk away with Asa Newell in this draft. So we are going to go Asa Newell here at 12 and bring in the Georgia guy. Then we get to the Hawks. The Hawks now up yet again. This is not a team that I think would be trading because they do have 2 picks here. And the Hawks, good news for them is I think they're also interested in a big man. Asa Newell would have been a good pickup for him, but Thomas Sorber sitting there I think is a really good fit. And then sneakily Neat Clifford and Cedric Coward still sitting there, guys that I think could sneakily go a little bit higher than the guys ranked ahead of them. But I think here you're looking at a guy that Onyeka Okongwu, he's solid. He's solid. He does a lot of things well. Clint Capella, though, his contract's coming up. Do you bring him back? I look at Sorber defensively, a guy that can play. I look at Sorber as a guy that can play alongside Onyeka Okongwu at times. Sorber is going to be on the court defensively and be that guy. Georgetown, when he was playing, was significantly better. I think offensively, he will be a solid NBA player. I think you could see a little bit of Onyeka Okongwu, actually, in his game where he's not going to be a great 20 point per game score or anything, but I think you could get 10, 12, maybe even 15 out of him. But I think here you're going off the defense here. You look at a team here that's actually, I mean, you look at Trae Young being on this team and they must not be that good defensively. Dyson Daniels, really good. Onyeka Okongwu sitting here. Jalen Johnson, Zachary Ricochet. This team is not a horrible defensive team, whether or not you want to believe it or not. Adding another guy to kind of just protect some of Trae Young's liabilities on the defensive side. Somebody beats Trae Young, guess what? Now you got to go score against Sorber. You don't get a break when Onyeka Okongwu's in there, or not in there because Clint Capella's gone. No, you got to run into Sorber. A guy that I think the Bulls should be interested in, but I don't think you take him over Asa Newell, but a guy that I think could be a solid offensive and defensive prospect, and that's kind of what you're looking for here at this range is two-way players. And I think that's where you might see some guys really fall, the Derek Queens and the CMBs, because you have guys that maybe not their offensive game is not as good as Derek Queens, or maybe their defensive game is not as good as CMB, but they can do a little bit of everything, whereas these guys are more so just specialists at this point. I don't know if you see guys like that go as early. So we get to the second pick here for the Spurs. They took Dylan Harper. They're loading up now. And this is a team that, you know what? I don't necessarily think it's at the top of their needs. But this is a team I would really like Neat Clifford on. This is a team that Rasheer Fleming makes a lot of sense on. Really good defensive player, a little bit on the older side, can stretch the floor a little bit, playing next to Victor Wembanyama, be a great interior defender there. There were some rumors that they'd be interested in Kaman Malawach. I like the Rasheer Fleming fit next to Victor Wembanyama, and also this is a guy that could play some three potentially even. He'll be kind of this jumbo wing package, and I think he'll be ready to help them compete next year. So Rasheer Fleming, we're gonna have him slide into the lotto, a prospect that I really like, and we just had three guys I really like go back to back to back in Asa Newell, then obviously Sorber, and then Fleming, all guys that I think the Bulls should be interested in. Well, guess what? The Bulls started the run of the big men. Another spot, you got 2 picks. Don't know if you trade this one, because I think you'd probably include 2 of the picks from either the Hawks, or not the Hawks, who traded down? Somebody traded down. 2 of the picks. Oh, the Wizards, and then the Nets. This right here, to me, OKC is a dream. I need defenders. We obviously have a lot of guys that are really good. They're going to get paid at some point. We can't keep everybody. I know I'm keeping SGA. I know I'm keeping Jalen Williams long term. I know I'm keeping Chet. Everybody else will kind of just have to fall in line. Seeing how the defense really helped get this team over the edge, and seeing how well they defend, and really that it's became their identity on this team. I don't think you draft CMB here to be an offensive weapon at all. He can maybe go get you 6, 8 points, 10 points, maybe even a little bit of this Draymond Green role, but really going to lock in defensively. Really going to be that guy. I talked about CMB kind of being that defensive specialist. A team like the Thunder are a team likely to take a specialist here in CMB. Colin Card will be defense. I kind of look at him maybe like a Jarris Walker role, where probably won't play much, but when you need defense, Carlisle called on Walker. Guess what? You'll have Dano call on CMB. So Derek Queen's still sitting there. Starts to become interesting. Magic, another team, probably not likely to trade up. Jace Richardson sitting there. It's kind of felt like the pick the whole time. You're getting a two-way player, a guy that I think can kind of just seal the fate of some of the guards on this team. You look at Anthony Black, Cole Anthony, guys that aren't super promising for this team long term. Guys, I mean, Anthony Black still has a lot of potential. Cole Anthony, a good player, but it doesn't seem like this team's committed to them long term, is more so what I'm trying to say. Get value out of them, trade them, and I go a different route. Here, to me, it's kind of always just been Jace Richardson. There's no rhyme or reason. I just really like Jace Richardson to them. So Jace Richardson gives you some flexibility to move on. This is starting to become a little bit ridiculous. Because I talked about CMB going to the Thunder. I look at this team. I don't know if Naz Reid's back. Don't know if he'll be back. Julius Randle's been in some trade rumors. Guards, we have a lot of them. Could maybe look for another one to pair with Rob Dillingham long term, since Mike Conley's going to be on his way out. But we have TSJ, Jalen Clark, Anthony Edwards, Dante DiVincenzo. We have enough guys that can handle the ball. Worst case scenario, if we can't find one in free agency or can't find one at pick 31, which there might still be guys there if you're really banking on maybe somebody sliding. I'm looking here at Derek Queen. Derek Queen's just too good of a player. This gives you a lot of flexibility to move on from Naz Reid. Two different kind of players. Naz Reid, a little bit more of that three-point shooter, but I think offensively you look for dynamic weapons at that big man position. You have Rudy Gobert in there already as the defender. Necessarily don't need Derek Queen to go in there and be a great defender. He won't play alongside Rudy Gobert, I wouldn't imagine, super early on in his career, but a guy that you could put in there, kind of change of pace, big man. And I think you get yet another guy in this team that fits the Julius Randle mold, that fits the Naz Reid mold of just go in there, be this offensive threat, and then you're going to kind of have just good defenders around him to kind of hide some of his defensive liabilities. I think Derek Queen going to a team like the Timberwolves would be an ideal situation for him. He might be well gone by this point, is an extremely talented player. I just couldn't find a spot for him because I'm looking at teams and what teams I think what directions they could go. I think Derek Queen's one of those guys that might slide a little bit and just luck out and enter a really good situation. So we went here with the huge upside pick in Carter Bryant because we were talking about, yeah, it could have been, we could have went Kasper Shakashonis, we could have went Jeremiah Fears. Now we got a true piece to pair next to Alex Sarr long term. We have a bunch of wings here. For now, we do have Kaishan George and Jordan Poole. They're around. A lot of guards outside of Bub Carrington, nobody I'm committed to long term. This is where the Igor Dimon pick comes in. Another guy, extreme potential. You're looking at a jumbo 6'9" point guard playmaker. The problem is the frame. You look at him and Kasper Shakashonis, the frame, does it translate to the NBA? At times, I think Dimon was a little bit more timid. There were times where he got played off the court. Igor Dimon is truly one of those guys that I think night and day difference between when he has a good game and a bad game. There's games where you look at Igor Dimon, you see the flashes, and you're like, wow, this guy could be a really special player. There's also games where you look at Igor Dimon, and you're like, wow, we need him off the court. If he can find a balance between that on this Wizards team, a young Wizards team nonetheless, I think he has a successful NBA career. I do like the player. I do like the upside, but he is a little bit more of a project than some of the other guards around him. So I do think that is why he'll slide a little bit. There were some comparisons to Josh Giddey even. But Igor Dimon, an interesting prospect nonetheless, and fits that jumbo guard role that you're starting to see more and more in the NBA. So we went the Jeremiah Fears route at pick 6. I'm probably looking for a wing here. And I know he's not the best true wing because he's more so a shooting guard at the moment. But I'm looking at, hey, I was considering going Concanipple. If I'm looking at a 3-and-D player, Cedric Coward at this point just is great value. Cedric Coward, somebody that doesn't have a lot of tape from Washington State, only played a few games, but what he did was really, really good. More so projection at this point of what Cedric Coward can become. You think, hey, he'll be a solid three-point shooter coming into the league. He'll be a solid defender coming into the league. But some people think this guy could be great. I think this is a little bit more tame of a take on him, that he'd be around this spot. Cedric Coward, though, a guy that could go much earlier than this. We'll have him go here at 19 to the Nets and pair up with Jeremiah Fears. We get to the Heat. The Heat are an interesting one. Walter Clayton on the board, Nolan Traore on the board. I think there's a big point guard need for him, but is that where they go? You have Nick Clifford on the board, an interesting option. Cam Jones, Will Riley, Ben Serif. Big men, I like their big men. Bam, Khalil Ware, not worried. Jaime Jaquez, I like. There's a lot of wings. I'd be okay with most of them. I'd really lock in on guard here. I would really lock in on guard. I'm starting to think maybe Walter Clayton isn't going to go nearly as high as I think he could. I think I'm going to lean Nolan Traore here. This is a guy that at one point was thought to be one of the top guards in this class. Still super young. Not coming off his best year, but you're more so just projecting off of 2 years ago and what people thought he could become. He had a down year coming into the draft, but yet again, this is another big-time gamble of, hey, we think we can kind of get the best out of this kid. We've seen what he can be, but he hasn't consistently shown it over the last year. So Nolan Traore, we're to gamble here on a team with the Heat, who I really do trust their development team there. So you could probably see them get the best out of Nolan Traore. We get to the Jazz. They lucked out and got VJ Edgecombe, and now I think you probably see them once again go wing. And I'm really looking here. I have some scores in Keontae George, Isaiah Collier. I have Jordan Clarkson. I could go the Nick Clifford route of a guy that could do everything well. kind of a lot of Josh Hart in him. Or I could go the Will Riley route. The Will Riley route to me is kind of interesting in this draft. Will Riley has a lot of Ace Bailey type skill to him where he will take the dangerous shots. He will be taking big time shots. Needs to fill out his frame a little bit more. Needs to work on the defensive side of the ball a little bit more. A guy that I thought could handle the ball pretty well last year at Illinois, but I do think really your concerns with him become in the NBA is can he match the physicality at the NBA level? I look at a team here with a Lauri Markkanen, with the John Collins, guys that came into the league a little bit on the skinnier side and have bulked up a little bit and have became good NBA players. I look at this team and I think, you know what? I trust that they could get him to a point where he's a starting caliber player for this team. Will Riley, big time offensive potential there. I'm gonna gamble on it here at 21. I'm gonna gamble on it here at 21 for the Jazz. Then we get to the Hawks. The Hawks went Thomas Sorber. I've been telling people, man, Nate Clifford could go earlier. We talked about him even at that Sorber pick. He's still here. I'm taking him instantaneously. It ain't even a question. I'm taking him. Unless who's got 2 picks to trade up with? Who's got 2 of them bad boys? The Nets. Do you have 2 still? I don't think they do have 2. No. Yeah, I think here. I think here we're just going to stick and pick, and we're taking Nate Clifford. Nate Clifford, one of my favorite players in this class. A little bit on the older side, but once again, reminds me a lot of Josh Hart. We'll do a little bit of everything. This is an insane stat line for a college player. You saw him really come into his own the last couple of years at Colorado State. A guy that's kind of been on the radar for the last couple of years because this Colorado State team has been one of those tournament teams, and you look at guys on these tournament teams and just see faces over and over again. Nate Clifford was one of those guys where you look at it and be like, well, this is a really good play. Then you watch the game, you're like, this guy should be at a way bigger school. Like, this guy belonged on, like, the Dukes of the world. But he stuck it out with Colorado State, and props to him. He'll be a first-round pick this year. So we get to the Pacers. And to the Pacers, I think it sounds like they're bringing back their Miles Turner. It sounds like they're gonna run it back with this same group after being 2-2 in the finals now. A lot of Obi, Pascal, Jarris Walker, all guys I like. At somewhere in this group, you are gonna have to lose a little bit something. Wow. So I just got a notification. About the Magic. The Magic have traded Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony, and 4, not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 unprotected first-round picks and 1 swap for Desmond Bane. So this video and the Magic pick was prior to that, which means later this week we are going to have to do another one of these videos post-Desmond Bane trade. But live reaction, that is a lot for Desmond Bane. Wow. That is a lot for Desmond Bane, and that probably does change what you see the Magic do if you go get Desmond Bane, you move on from Cole Anthony. Wow, that's a big deal right there. 4 unprotected. I wonder if they gave up this year's pick. Can I see which pick they gave up? I need to Google this now. Wow. Did they give up this year's pick? Somebody said the Grizzlies got more for Desmond Bane than the Mavs did Luka. I don't know if it's this year's pick. I don't know. Okay, I just sent a text for somebody else to answer it for me, and maybe if they get back to me, we'll tell you by the end of this video. But wow, that's a big move. But let's get back to the Pacers. The Pacers I see as a team right now. somewhere they're going to have to lose somebody, right? I look at these backup big men. I can lose one of them. I don't want to lose Nimhar. Ben Shepard's been solid for us. Don't want to lose McConnell. Don't want to lose. Somebody's going to have to be lost. Probably even in this group of guys I really believe in. I'm here. Here, I am really just going to do... Here's the difficult part. I want to go the extremely good defensive upside pick in Behringer. The difficult part is Danny Wolf's a really good playmaker, and he's on the board and probably should be well gone before Behringer is considered. I'm going to go the Danny Wolf route. I'm going to go Danny Wolf, big-time playmaker. Halliburton, Pascal off the court. Guess what? Danny Wolf also a threat to pass, shoot, and rebound. A really good prospect there. A little bit of defensive question marks, but a really good defensive team around him. A team that I think could maybe answer some of those questions. I'm still in shock, by the way. I'm still in shock. Wow. The Magic. Wow. And, nobody's even saying what years these 4 unprotected first-rounders are. We go to the Thunder. They went CMB. We have Hartenstein, J-Dub. Well, I keep calling Jalen the center J-Dub. That's not J-Dub. We have Chet. I think we already did CMB here. We don't necessarily need the insane defense. We're just going to go BPA here and find a guy that I think could fit. Liam McNeely, I think, would have an immediate role as kind of just go in there, hit shots, be a good rebounder. Walter Clayton, I don't really love on this team. Adu Thero's interesting to me. Drake Powell's around. Johnny Broom's interesting as well. You know what? Teams are going to want to trade back into this first round. I don't love any of the options here for him. So we are going to have... The Pistons haven't picked yet. What do they have? They don't have much. The Hornets. What did the Hornets do? We had them select Trey Johnson. We're going to have the Hornets trade back up into this first round. The talent drop-off is kind of steep once you get outside the top first round guys, unless maybe somebody slides because you're banking off potential. We're going to send back 24 in this deal. Might be a second swap in the future or something like that. But we drafted Trey Johnson. We kind of discussed at a point needing big man because we might move on from Mark Williams. VJ Edgecombe was in discussion. But to me, you're trading back up for a big man. You would be kind of concerned if Mark Williams does get traded. You don't want to go into next year with just Nurkic and Diabate. And I do know Tijon Saloon was kind of a super high upside pick. So here I'm trading up for Jean Behringer. I think defensively, an interesting prospect, will block shots. The offense, again, will need to come to him. Reynaud, obviously the best offensive player at this point at the big man position. Then Kalkbrenner, another sneaky guy that could go first round. A little bit more so well-rounded than I think Reynaud and Behringer. But I think at this point in the draft, you're looking for more so specialists than just okay players. The Magic, I don't even know if the Magic have this pick. I don't know if they have Jace Richardson at this moment. They have Desmond Bane, so that's a pretty good pickup. I'm gonna work this as if they have their picks this year. I assume they don't, but so they gave up KCP, who's one of their wing depths. They gave up Cole Anthony, who we just replaced anyways. Shout out to Cole Anthony. Now you're a Grizzly. I'm gonna add another wing. Here. Jace Richards. I want a three-point shooting wing, though. I don't believe Adu Thero's that. I really like the player, but I don't think he's that. I'm going to go the Drake Powell route. Should be a solid defender. I think he'll be a decent shooter early on in his career. I think he is one of those guys that could spend some time in the G League, but if you can get the best out of Drake Powell, you have a pretty solid NBA role player. So Drake Powell, interesting pickup there. Should be a lock for the first round. It sounds like even my Chicago Bulls could consider him all the way up at 12. I don't know if I like that, but it's in there. The Nets, they've had a great draft. If you walk out with Jeremiah Fears, Cedric Coward, and now just because you have really two good guards here, and maybe Cedric Coward can run some three, Cam Johnson could maybe be on the move. I'm really going to lock in here on Maxime Reynaud. You have the two good defensive big men here in Sharp and Claxton. I think here you have a little bit of the flexibility to go the offensive route and go get Maxime Reynaud, a guy that I'm really starting to like and hoping that somehow, some way he finds his way to the Chicago Bulls. Not at 12, but maybe if the Bulls trade back into the first round, or it would only be in a situation that the Bulls do something weird. I mean, like, for example, we had Drake Powell as an option. Even Nick Clifford as one of the guys that we've been kind of mocked to pick. If we do something weird like that, I would be really interested in maybe trading back up and getting a center. And Reynaud would be up at the top of that list probably. Him and Behringer and even Johnny Broom. I'd be okay with a lot of those guys late first round, to be honest with you. Then we get to the Wizards. And the Wizards went Demon Carter. Do they take another pick here? Or is there somebody else willing to trade up? You know what? I kind of like the idea of the Spurs trading back up. I don't know what player this would be. They would have to add a player or another future pick to make this deal work to move up. But like I said, Dylan Harper, somebody that's going to start for this team for a long time. Rasheer Fleming, I think, fits there at that 4 position, maybe even some jumbo 3. You have small forward here in Vassell and Keldon Johnson that has some trade value. I'd be trading up for Adu Thero or Noah Pinda, probably. I really like Adu Thero's two-way game. This is a team that does not need the offense. I would be trading up to Adu Thero here. I don't think he makes it to your next pick. So Adu Thero is my pickup. I really like his defensive game. Somebody that's more so going to be a little bit of a project offensively, but I think defensively, really good player. This team could go 100 different ways, and I think Walter Clayton's the easiest way to predict. But you have a team right now in Jason Tatum who's hurt, Jaylen Brown who's been in trade rumors, Drew Holiday that's been in trade rumors, Kristaps Porzingis that's been in trade rumors. I think here, if you're trying to win now, Walter Clayton, right? But this team is going to be, I think they're going to take a drop off next year. I'm going to go the upside pick here in Noah Pinda. That will maybe add some flexibility to actually go through with the Jaylen Brown move if we do want to do it. Or at worst, give us a guy to help develop behind Tatum while Tatum is out. But Noah Pinda, a little bit of an interesting guy here to go in the first round. Not a lock for the first round, but a guy that I think could hear his name called. We get to the Suns. The Suns are... Okay. The Suns, if Walter Clayton is on the board, if he is there, you take him. I don't want ifs, ands, buts, or anything else. You take Walter Clayton. Your point guard position is terrible. It is terrible. You have Devin Booker. Kevin Durant's going to get traded. Your Bradley Beal experiment sucked. You get the best player on the board in Walter Clayton. Maybe not the highest upside, but the best player. I look at him similar to how people probably looked at Peyton Pritchard coming into the NBA. You're getting a good player. He's going to be a good role in the NBA. He's going to be a winning caliber player. He did it at the college level. He will do it now. I don't think there's anything that you would be missing if you get Walter Clayton here. I don't need you to bank on upside. You have D-Book around. You assume you get something for KD. You get a player that can actually help this team be competitive and maybe actually win a playoff series or two. Shout out Walter Clayton, one of my favorite players in this class. And then we get to the Clippers. The Clippers going to round things off, and I think the board's fallen actually fairly nice for the Clippers. They get a pick between Liam McNeely, Ben Seraph, Cam Jones. Could be Hugo, but I'd probably hold off on Hugo. I don't think big man's really in play here. Tyrese Proctor, another interesting guy. But here for me, it's really came down to Cam Jones and Ben Seraph. Ben Seraph, somebody that I think should be a lock for the first round. You look at him, he's kind of got that NBA build, Bulls fit. Wow. But he's a guy that I think, for the most part, will be a solid NBA player. Let's see if we can find a comp for him. Can we find an NBA comp for him? Manu Ginobili? No. Jarrett Culver, by the way, he, I believe, is now playing in Japan. Tyreek Evans is not a comparison. I would be okay with that. At this point, you're looking for good quality role players, and I think Ben Seraph is that guy. I don't love the upside of Ben Seraph, but he is a guy that I like as a guy that can come in, be a contributor, and I think Cam Jones is in that same mold. Liam McNeely more so at the moment would just kind of be an off-ball player and more so a go-get-it rebound kind of guy, and I don't really know that that's what this Clippers team needs. Ben Seraph can do a little bit of everything. Not a super high potential in my opinion, but Ben Seraph, a guy that I think the Clippers would be very excited to select here at this point. So you have a couple guys there falling into the second round. Liam McNeely being the most notable. I've kind of gone back and forth on Liam McNeely, and if I want to have him be I've had him like go to the Thunder and teams that are like of that. He can kind of just be more of a specialist, but I don't know. Figuring out Liam McNeil is a little bit difficult for me. Anyways, thank you for watching. Let me know down below who you want your teams to draft. And I will see you all next time. And after we make one for the Magic now that they probably don't have these two picks. Maybe they do. I don't know. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.